Okay, we're preparing to live stream.
Mm.
Okay, everyone, we are welcome to our first impression for July. July, we are reading, Booktini is reading Dial A for Aunties. Yes. And I can hear myself. Hold on one second. So I'm joined here today with Ashley from the Atlanta chapter and Christia from the DMV chapter. We're going to discuss our humor selection, Dial A for Aunties. A lot of people voted this in. And so far, I mean, it's somewhat funny to me. Um, just to give a brief description about it, the Chan family, they live in Southern California and they are caterers. The family is made up of four aunties and Madeline, I think that's how you pronounce it, but they call her Medi. And Medi is the one of the second generation, or I would say first generation Americans, since the aunties traveled there from Indonesia, um, and they are preparing to cater a billionaire's wedding at a hotel that's off the coast of California. And first off, the book starts off with a note from the author. The author is Jessie Q. Sutanto, and she gives basically a message to the readers about the dialogue and the way that they'll be speaking to each other. Ashley, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so I like the reader's note because she talks about that her family is essentially trilingual. Her parents and her grandparents speak and they speak Mandarin and Indonesian and English. And so she writes that some of the aunties in Dial A for Aunties speak this sort of broken English that my parents' generation does, and their grasp of the English language is not a reflection of intelligence, but a reflection of the sacrifice that they made for us. So I thought it was just important to note that, the aunties will speak broken English, but it's not a reflection on their intelligence.
Yeah, I really like that message as well, because a lot of people do automatically assume if you don't know English or don't know proper English that you're stupid or dumb, or they can, have all these kind of other stereotypes about you. And it's really just, I didn't grow up with that language, or I didn't grow up being taught to speak that way. And that's, all it is. So I really like that message that she prepared the readers for.
Yeah, I also like that it gives you kind of a reminder of how protective first generation Americans have to be about their parents' generations because they see the ways in which like they're disrespected by people who aren't aware of what they're experiencing on the normal.
Hmm. That's a good point as well. So diving into the actual story, um, we have Medi who is joining her aunties for, I guess, a lunch in
Wait, you forgot
oh,
you forgot the prologue. The prologue talks about the family curse,
oh
which I
yeah.
can see is going to drive the whole rest of the story. So the family curse is that the men all leave them in some way
Hmm.
or another. They die, they just pick up their stuff and go. They study on the other end of the country. So I always kind of enjoy a longer narrative like this. So just having the family curse, I think, will tie the whole story together.
Hmm. And I thought it was really interesting how in Medi's generation, instead of the men dying, they've just moved to another part of the country, like for college, and they're like, I'm never coming back. And she's the only girl. And she's the one that has the serious guilt about, like, she initially wanted to go away. I forgot, was it Columbia she wanted to go to for college, to the East
Mm-hmm.
Coast. But she never told her family that she applied. She made sure they knew that she applied to universities in California, and then she settled on UCLA because she needed to stay close for them. And I really felt bad for her, but I felt like this is kind of somewhat a universal thing, like across different cultures, where the girls are expected to stay and help the family in some kind of way. And if they want to leave, they do feel a lot of guilt about leaving. Whereas the men are just like, I'm out. Don't expect me to come back. There's no question about it. And they're not going to feel guilty at all, you know? So I thought that was, I thought that was really interesting. Um, after the prologue, it dives into Maddie meeting up with her aunts for lunch in, I want to say, Chinatown. And this is where you basically are introduced to the aunts. There are four of them, and she refers to them as Big Aunt, which is who is the oldest, Second Aunt, who is the second oldest, Ma, who is her mother, and Fourth Aunt, who is the youngest. And they all have there's a different dynamic for all of them because of their birth order and how they treat each other and everything like that. You guys have anything to say about that part?
Yeah, I'm a strong subscriber to birth order influencing the ways in which like people interact. I like joke around a lot because I have like a weird one where I'm like the youngest girl, but then the oldest of my set, there's a big gap, and like my father's firstborn. So there's all of these things that I think like mix in and influence the ways in which you interact with each other. And I think so much of that like applies here, like even seeing the dynamics between like fourth aunt and her mom, where it's like even things that shouldn't feel like petty feel petty because she's the youngest. So
Yeah.
And I kind of like that they're just going by their birth order names, because there are already so many characters and it's always just hard to remember so many names. I just kind of appreciate just the simplicity of, we know Big Aunt is the oldest and she's gonna run this. Fourth Aunt is the baby and she's gonna be the baby, and
Right.
we don't have to think too hard every time they come up. We just know. So I like that.
I know that does make it a lot easier because that is one thing I struggle with as much as I read. When somebody gives me like 5 characters in one chapter, it's too much sometimes. So
Yeah.
Big Aunt, I know who that is. Fourth Aunt, very simple, very easy. Yes, I did really like that. So then we get to the drama of the of the book, where Maddie is, like I said, she stayed with her family, and apparently she's single. She's already finished college at this point. I'm guessing mid-20s,
yeah, I think
26,
Mhm.
and her mother has hooked. Well, first they discuss their catering this wedding that's coming up, and it's a very important for their family business, yada yada yada. Then her mother lets it be known that she um, decided to get on a dating app and, and pretend to be her so she could find her a man. And this man that she found is the owner of the hotel where they're having this event. Excuse my cat. Where they're catering this wedding, and because he's rich, of course, her mom's excited about it. And Maddie hasn't had a man since college or whatever, so it's been a minute.
Mhm.
Of course, this is embarrassing. How do you guys feel about how Maddie reacted? Because I know if my mom had done this, it would have been a no. That I'm not going on this date. So the date is actually that specific day, that night after they leave lunch, and the wedding is supposed to be the next day. So she's supposed to go out with this guy who's the hotel owner the day before the wedding, and she agrees to it, which is crazy. What do you guys think?
I feel like she has like strong Stockholm syndrome. Um, like living with like we like make a note that like her and her mom have just moved to their own place like a year ago. So she's actually been living with all four of them her for the past 25 years of her life.
Mm.
And that kind of sense of like gut churning because you feel like you have to like do what your family is asking of you. Like I can understand that, but not to the degree where you catfish someone and then I go on a date with them. Like, and I also think it would have been one thing if her mom got on and not that I still would probably say no, but there's a difference between like getting on and swiping and being like, hey, you matched with these
Right.
people. Here you go. I've got you some like potential husbands, and you talking to them for weeks on end and
Pretending to be me.
pretending to be me is a whole like different situation. So I'm like, it just show, I guess it's like a very extreme and funny in this situation, not if it happened in real life, example of just how much they are like they interject into her life where like they feel like this is completely comfortable. And it's also shocking that of all the people you would pick someone that is going to impact your business when you say like this is the biggest
Right.
wedding of our lives and you're sending her on a date the night before. Like maybe your date should be after the wedding. Like maybe like
Maybe.
that's not that. So there's just so many red flags like that are here. That it also like sets you up to know that like this book is ridiculous. I have to suspend my disbelief in order to engage in what's happening here.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I thought that it was just, I thought it was unrealistic. And then I also have questions about a man who would agree to this, because I can't imagine talking to a man that I think I'm talking to on whatever website for weeks, only for him to be like, I'm really Bob's daddy. And, Bob has a hard time getting out. So I just wanted to help Bob get you real cute. So he gonna meet you at the Starbucks. I was like, no, sir. No. Delete all of this.
Right.
So I think that sets the tone or sets the stage for the guy being a little weird, because I just can't imagine a sane person really being like, yeah, it's great that your mama pretended to be you on Bumble for weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They never told him. I assume that like he just still thinks
I thought he knew, because I don't know, for some reason I thought he knew that he was being set up by mom.
Oh,
Did he not know?
I thought he didn't know until the day.
He was like, yeah, girl, like you've been real into. I don't think they ever told him. And so I think
okay.
that's what influences why he's like, oh girl, we've been chatting. You've been
And you know what? I would say this. I think the scenario is unrealistic, but I feel like it's something that could happen like in the early 2000s or like 2007. Not 2021.
Yeah. I mean,
but
I still watch Catfish, and people are still getting catfished today.
Yeah.
And I've seen someone whose mom used their pictures and things, but their mom used their pictures for their benefit, not to set their daughter up on a date. So, like,
and I just feel like so many people are like, okay, let's video chat or something. You know what I mean? Before, so it's just kind of hard for this happen for people who are younger, like 20s and 30s. You know what I mean?
I think based on the characterization of this guy, this isn't a guy who, if we were chatting, you wouldn't ask me to FaceTime. Like, this is a guy who's like, yeah, we're going to talk for a few weeks and then I'll meet you in person. Like, he's not that guy.
Right. Right. So she agrees to go on this date. Initially, she was like, of course, she was horrified that her mom did that. And then she was like, well, I guess maybe I should. It's been a minute. Years, because her last and only situation was in college. And so the book starts doing the back and forth where they do flashbacks to college. She had an old flame named Nathan. Nathan was her friend for a minute, but she had feelings for him clearly. And it seemed like he had feelings for her as well. So the book talks about how they kind of hooked up or finally agreed or finally recognized that they both like each other at a college party. And she was very, because of, her upbringing, she wasn't really a flirty type of person, didn't really know how to handle dealing with men and everything, but they fall into a relationship, and it goes back and forth between her time in college with this guy and then her date with Jake, who is the guy that her mom tried to hook her up with. So on this date, does anybody want to discuss the date? No, yes.
I feel like, I mean, she only gives us like a couple of examples of the terrible things that he says. but I just couldn't imagine even like, and I guess that's what they give us is they give us this kind of conflict where she knows there's only like so much she can do because this is someone she has to see the next day and who's running, whose hotel the wedding is at and things like that. Cause I'm like, I would have left so much earlier. Like I would have, I'm not feeling well.
Let me say this. So she went into the date and her aunts did as well on some like, make sure this date goes well because we don't want to ruin our catering job situation the next day. But in real life, would that really ruin it? I mean, could you really just mess up somebody's wedding like that and be like, my date went bad, so you guys are no longer catering this $1 billion wedding tomorrow?
if we had some, if there was some space between them, but it's tomorrow. Like, what is he
Right.
doing tomorrow? Like, so there's a conflict, but it's a false conflict of sorts. But
Right.
very quickly described as the guy who's talking about his money and I guess that like is something that doesn't translate to her mother in those conversations. And
Hmm.
I guess that's something I find even more unrealistic than the decision to go on the date is her not reading the chat before going on the date. Like
Oh, I didn't
completely
think about that.
like completely relying upon her mother's like where like her mom's like, oh, you don't have time to read them, but then they continue to have dim sum and she says, everyone tell me like what I need to know about him. And I'm like, no, I need to see the
What
chat.
did you tell this man? And what
Right.
did he say?
I was like, I feel like there's no way he wasn't saying those things like
Mhm.
in the chat. And her mother was probably like laughing that up, like, oh, like when he sweats diamonds. Okay, that's what I want for my daughter. And it's like, no, that's gross. So
And not true as well. Yeah. So the date isn't really going too well, but she drinks a little bit too much and her phone dies. And she needs to get home to get ready for this.
Unrealistic. Nobody's phone dies these days.
Or they at least have like a charger in the car. Like so she
right.
can't.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's my thing. Like if it die, like it's not unrealistic to me that it would die because I've had my phone die. But if my car is there, I would go sit in my car and charge my phone and get an Uber.
Right. And also, if I have a major, major, major event the next day, I'm not going to get drunk because I need to be at 100% for this major, major event that I'm working the next day. So that's another
All
thing.
of
I
that just
mean,
felt unrealistic. Her getting too drunk at the date, and then I don't know, like she's grown. So why wouldn't you have planned ahead? Like if you feel like you need that much alcohol to get through this date, which is like that's realistic. I did, I understood that. Um, but if she felt like I might need to drink so much that I can't drive home, then why wouldn't you already make plans to lift her, take a lift home or whatever? Because I don't know, that just felt unrealistic. I'm not letting a stranger guy drive me home in my car.
so yeah,
Um,
let's let him know that that's what happened. Dude was like,
oh, I'll
I can
drive you
drive your car.
home and
Yeah,
I'll
I
just
feel
take a
like,
lift
yeah. I mean,
back
my
to my
thought
place.
process is sorry. I was like, it's breaking up, so I was like,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, I was like, I would maybe be like, you can drive me home, but I don't think I would think, sure, you can drive my car home. And if
Yeah,
I really wanted, I would be like, can you call me a lift? Like,
that's what I would do, especially with a guy that I'm not
right.
feeling like that. She wasn't feeling him. So why would I let you drive my
Like
car?
if you're
That's
a
not.
billionaire and you sweat diamonds, I think you can call me a black car. But
Right. Right. That made me
And I
think
know
if
he
he
offered the
really
excuse.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I know he offered the whole, you have to be here pretty early tomorrow, don't you? Like, you won't have time to come pick up your car and get back here. I'm like, then I'll just live back here and then drive my car home after the wedding. Like, are we, are logistics not our thing? I don't know. If I can live home,
Yeah.
I can live back here. I don't, okay.
When he was like, "Well, I'll just drive your car home," it made me think, does this man really have money? Because that's a very weird suggestion. Like, even if you do have money, that's a weird. I mean, even if you broke, why are you trying to drive my car? That would just that would make me feel very weird. And the fact that maybe because she was drunk, she was like, okay, she wasn't thinking or something. I don't know. But things get pretty dangerous because he seems to be like, oh, going a different direction, driving in an area that is not necessarily populated or whatever, deserted or abandoned area. And he's like, I forgot what he was saying, but it was on some like, let's have some fun and let's do it somewhere in an abandoned area in the car. And she's like, what are you talking about? I thought we were going home. And she ends up tasing him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they crash. And apparently he dies.
That also speaks to your theory and that also goes back to your theory about him not having any money because you own a whole hotel and you just don't get us a room. Like, you don't even offer just let me sleep it off. Like,
I didn't think about that either.
That's so smart. But and also like I feel like he was on some like role play where when she was like, "Oh, I want to go home," and he was like, "Ooh, aren't you sweet?" And I was like, "What's happening here?" Like,
Yeah, that would make me feel very weird. Yeah.
yeah. And so I forgot, like I knew that someone died, but in my head I was thinking like the groom dies or like something like
Yeah.
somebody random dies, like an uncle has a heart attack at the wedding or something. But I was not anticipating like this is who was going to die. And so I was like, so if we were concerned that like the date going badly was going to ruin our chances, I'm pretty sure the hotel owner dying is much higher like safe in terms of how this is going to go. So yeah, like it sets us up for and this is something we discussed briefly before, is that not to jump at, is that she decides to go home to her mom to help her with this body. And they have presented us with this person who is in every way the good girl. Like,
yeah,
until college, she's only had one relationship. Like, she's the one that stays home. Like, she doesn't go anywhere. She doesn't do anything. And she believes she's going to be sexually assaulted, protects herself in self-defense, and then someone dies. And she says, yeah, I'm going to be a fugitive from the law.
I'm
going to put this body in the trunk.
And that doesn't even make sense. That whole, I was telling y'all, that whole chapter 5, which is unrealistic. I mean, I don't know if it's supposed to be magical realism. I don't know if you're just supposed to suspend disbelief, but from his body just falling out the car, her dragging a 180-pound body. I've never dragged a dead body, but from what I've read, it's heavy. Like it's literally dead weight. You know what I mean? Like they're obviously like not helping you. So I don't care how much she works out, she ain't working out that much.
What? Them cameras are heavy, Ashley.
Yeah.
She got lenses and everything in that bag.
I was really surprised he really died too. I kept thinking that man gonna wake up in the trunk.
None of it made sense.
It didn't.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those where you're like, this is ridiculous and I'm just here for the ride. It's fun and like ridiculous, but
just silly. It's gonna be silly humor.
Yes, for sure.
Silly humor, yeah. And then like I said, they're doing flashbacks. So in the middle of discussing this terrible date, she's talking about her relationship with Nathan, and there's a chapter where she goes to visit his family in England, because that's where his father and stepmother live, and she finds out how wealthy he is. And when she meets them, he wants to have sex in the house immediately. When he takes her home. And where we stopped off in preparing for the first impression, I'm really interested in seeing what happens with their relationship, because they seem like they were a very good match. I kind of did get a sense that Nathan likes her, but probably ruined the relationship in some kind of way. that, but maybe that could be my own bias against men. But I feel like he probably was like, we're too young, and when they graduated, I need to go off and sow my wild oats or whatever. I don't know. What do you guys think about their relationship?
So with I get alternate. I think it was her.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, and I base that on the fact that like he wants to meet her family and she doesn't want him to meet her
Oh.
family. And I know at the end of that chapter she kind of says like, whatever, I'm just gonna let him meet my family. Um, and so I'm curious as to what happens if she does actually let him meet her family, or how her family acts when, like, if they scare him off or anything
Hmm.
like that. But I just know it reminded me of, I think we read one of Sonali Dev's books, or it's been on our
Yeah,
list.
we did.
Okay.
Hmm.
That was in one of her books, they have a character
Oh
or
no,
like
we
a
didn't.
storyline it's
I'm
been
sorry,
on
no,
like
we
it's
didn't.
been suggested, but I don't believe I've read her books, but they've been like suggested to the
She's Indian, right?
yes.
And
And
we
there's
okay.
a similar storyline in one of her books where like he wants to meet her family. And for many of the same reasons, where it's like, I get to be this other person away from my family. Like I get to
Hmm.
have this different life. And, it's really me being like self-conscious about my family, but that person takes it as, you don't want to let me be a part of your life. Um,
Right.
so I'm interested as to, I think you might be right that maybe something happens with him, but I don't know if it's in response to her not letting him be a part of
Who
like,
she?
or know,
Yeah,
yeah, or knowing her better.
And
that's
their
a good point.
relationship gave me Crazy Rich Asian vibes in the sense that he's super
Yeah.
rich and she has no clue. So I'm curious to like if that's part of their dynamic. She just can't really fit in his world, or he can't fit into her world or whatever. But I'm really interested in their relationship. I'm much more interested in their relationship than I think anything else in the book so far.
Me too.
Agreed. Agreed. I
Me
also was
too.
like, oh, we have like sex scenes. I was not, I did not anticipate that. but, but hey,
Hey.
there's that. And this
Hmm.
was also something I had noticed that I was like, I think it's one of those things where books are, I mean, to a certain degree formulaic. I think there's always a place for a surprise, but I feel like he's going to resurface and we're going to see how they're like what their interaction is. And I think that now I'm thinking about how like ridiculous their interaction will be based on where she is in life when she sees him again.
Like she
And,
just killed somebody, or she
right,
didn't really kill him, though. Well,
like,
she's
I mean, she tased him and he crashed. It was assisted, but not
it's
intentional.
his fault, but
Right,
she's harboring his dead body,
right.
basically.
And so there's an obstruction of justice, some evidence tampering happening. But
Hmm.
I do think that my prediction is that he is going to be involved with this hotel. There is a very small line when she goes home to see him and she talks about, we're the first to tell each other everything in our lives. And there's like a very brief part where she says his dreams of owning a fancy hotel. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I was like, okay, does he own a hotel with this terrible guy she just killed? That where we're going? Or and so if that's the case, I will be very interested to see how they interact. That like it's her past love and he owns this hotel and she just killed his partner. Yes, bring the mess.
Bring on the mess. I'll say I agree with you as far as their relationship being one of the most interesting parts of the book. I also do kind of like the interaction between the aunties, though. Like they were pretty funny to me. Um, the irritation and pettiness was was pretty funny, and that was the only part that I actually kind of laughed at. So I was like, because this is our humor selection, so I'm like, this needs to be funny, and that was the part that was funny to me. So I'm hoping more of that, especially with her showing up with the dead body. There's going to be some shenanigans. So I can see this being, um, in a way, better off the page and on the screen. You know, I'm wondering if this will be one of those books that becomes a movie, because it is really popular right now. But I can definitely see this being like funnier, like being able to visualize it and everything.
Nice.
So, any last words about your first impression? Do you like it? Are you looking forward to finishing it? Do you think it is funny? Are you hoping it gets funnier? Like, what are your final thoughts?
I mean,
I'm
it's
hoping it gets funnier, but I'm excited to finish it. I had to stop myself. I didn't want to read too far ahead and talk about things that
Mhm.
weren't in the first impression. So I am excited to hopefully finish it pretty quickly, so I know what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I was like, I want to see where we're going, and I had to kind of stop myself from reading further so I wouldn't kind of reveal anything during the chat. And I mean, it gives me a giggle. I mean, I think especially it'll be even funnier, like you said, once she shows up with a dead body, and seeing them try to figure out what to do with the dead body.
Right. Right. I agree. I was ready to keep reading, but I stopped myself because I didn't want to know too much. But I definitely was ready to keep on reading. And it's an easy reading book too. Like I was surprised at how quickly I got through the first 5 chapters.
So,
So I am looking forward to finishing it. I do hope it gets funnier, but I kind of have a feeling it will. Yeah, so I'm excited about finishing this book. So I guess we can end this now. Thank you, ladies, for joining me and discussing our first impression of Ballet for Aunties. I want to put it out there that we have another announcement coming up this coming Wednesday. So uh, pop into the Facebook group. It's going to be me, Christia, Liz from DMV, EJ from DMV, and Bridget. We have an announcement to make. So join us for this exciting announcement on Wednesday. It'll be 8:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 Pacific. See you then. And until then, have a happy Sunday.
Bye, y'all.
Bye bye.